about 2 years old, if that. The reason it's 2 years old is because the one that was on this building before got blown off. And many of the conflicts that have happened right here at this place, and conflicts between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Anytime you have a holy site that is shared between the Jews and the Muslims, it's going to be a very sensitive place, and it's going to have a lot of conflict associated with it. And this is just such a place. This is the traditional site of the tomb of Joseph. Let me read something to you here. So I'm reading out of Joshua chapter 24. It says, and remember that Joseph, before he died, made his request that he foresaw the Exodus, and he made the request that when the Exodus happens, that they would carry his bones out. Okay? And Joseph, this is verse 33 of Joshua 24, and Joseph's bones, which the Israelites had brought up from Egypt, were buried at Shechem, in the tract of land from Jacob. Okay, so we're in the tribal area of Ephraim, and the land allotted to Joseph's, well, he wasn't his firstborn, but he was the one that got the rights of the firstborn, Ephraim. And so we know from the ancient text that he was buried near Shechem, and this is the traditional site of that burial. We don't have any other traditional site that competes with this one. And so is this the authentic site where Joseph was buried? Well, we would love to figure that out. If I could list the most places that I would like to dig, this would be very high on the list. But the same reason that we can't dig the Temple Mount is the same reason that we can't dig here, because it would start a war. There would definitely be fighting. And so we don't know because we can't dig here. Just like there's so many questions that we could answer if we could dig on the Temple Mount, but we can't. So what would we find if we dug here? We can only speculate. But you see, this is very modern here, but you see these pillars. These, you know, how far down would they go? You know, how tall are those? And what are those standing on top of? And what's under that? And when we find building structures that were built over something, and then when we get down to a cave or a burial tomb, and then when we excavated that burial tomb, would it be an Old Testament style burial tomb like we were talking about last night? We don't know because we can't dig. But I can say this for sure. If this isn't the tomb of Joseph, then we have no idea whatsoever where it is. And so, most probably, it is. But it would be nice if we could verify that through archaeology. But it's also important to come and to think about this, to remember this site, because then you'll have a visual that will remind you that Joseph was buried here in the tribal area of Ephraim at the site of Shechem. They wouldn't bury him inside the city, right? They would bury him right outside of the city. We're right next to the tell. All we did is we got in the bus, we drove up that way, around, in. So the tell is right there. That eastern gate that we were standing at is right there. So we're right next to the eastern gate. It makes sense. This is where tradition is associated. That makes sense. How far back does it go? We don't know because we can't dig.